In this video, I'm going to be reviewing and unboxing this Metabo HPT 10-inch miter saw. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. This channel is all about DIY and saving a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get notification every time I release a new video, and hammer that like button for me. That's all I ask for in return for making this video. So I have a long history using the old version of this, the Hitachi 10-inch miter saw that had the laser on it. So I loved it so much I decided to upgrade to the newer version of this because the other one was getting worn out. And just so you're aware, this is one of the Amazon's best-selling 10-inch miter saws. In case you weren't aware, HPT stands for Hitachi Power Tools. So Hitachi and Metabo are virtually the same thing. And also, if you're wondering why I did not get the one that had the laser on it like my old one, that's because I did not use the laser, because you know I have a really nice DEWALT saw, and that is just for trim and using it for very precise cuts. So I have a framing miter saw and a trim saw. So this is the saw that I use for my framing projects. And with that being said, the differences between price are significant. You can get this for a little over $120 or around $120, and I'll put a link in the description below if you want to make the purchase. And just so you know, I am not sponsored by Hitachi or Metabo, and this is an honest, unbiased review, and a lot of it's based off my experience with my old saw because this is the new saw. But I am going to walk you through all the perks, and I'm going to walk you through cutting different types of material using this saw. I'm going to do a demonstration and review first, and then the unboxing and setup. So if you want to jump to that part of the video, go to 11 minutes and 35 seconds. I'm now going to go over some features to this saw. It runs off a 15 amp motor, and its no load speed is 5,000 RPMs. Another cool thing, as you'll notice, whenever you let go of cutting, you do see the blade will stop rapidly. That's because there is an electric brake that will stop the blade. Something I really like about this saw is that it's only a little over 24 pounds. It's 24.2 pounds to be exact. And in order to transport it, all you gotta do is shut the head of it down and lock it into place. Then just grab this handle and you can carry it around with ease. That's one of the reasons why I use this saw for framing, because while you're out in the field, you don't want to lug around that big DEWALT saw if you can avoid it. So this is great and lightweight, 24.2 pounds. When it comes to the miter range of this saw, we can go left or we can go right, and it goes up to 52 degrees. So in order to turn it, you have a thumb actuated miter stop. So all you gotta do is pull it down and slide it to whatever angle you want. And we got a red line that's inside of here that's gonna mark the exact degree we're at. And it does have positive stops. So if you turn it, it'll lock into place at certain areas. Right there's one. We got one at 22.5. We got one at 15. We got one at 0. We got one down here, and we have the same ones over here as well. So it locks nice and secure into place. And then after it locks, you're going to want to tighten the handle down in order to lock it, and it's not going anywhere. So the miter angles are definitely sufficient for almost any framing job. I'm now going to go over the bevel to this saw. As you can see, we got a bevel range here from 0 to 45 degrees. Now in order to bevel, we need to first take off this clamp. So we got to loosen it up, take it off, and then we got to flip this fence out. And then we can bevel, because if you try to bevel it, that's going to be in the way with all that stuff there. And then in order to change the bevel, you just loosen up this back clamp here. So you got to turn it counterclockwise, loosen it up. Then as you can see, you can bevel it to the left only. You cannot bevel it to the right. So it's a single bevel. So let's say we want to do a bevel at 45. So right there, then we just lock it into place by turning it clockwise. And now we can easily bevel our material. And obviously it doesn't have a sliding head on it, so you can't slide it back and forth. And as you can see, the base here wouldn't allow it anyways. And now in order to put it back to where we want it, we just turn it counterclockwise to unlock it, put it back on 0 in this case, then we're good to go. And then we can put this back to where we had it. So now we're back to a 0 bevel. I'm now going to touch base on this table and this vise. So in order to use this vise, it's going to lock into place by a wing nut in the back. As you can see, it's secured there. So I'm going to try to go ahead and vise this piece of 2x6 down. So we're going to lay it on the table. And first I noticed I got to take this out and flip this fence extension down. And then after I do that, I can put this back on, because if I don't do that, it's not going to go down far enough in order to clamp the 2x6 down, because it's only 1.5 inch thickness. So that's clamped back down solid, and then we're going to loosen this up, slide it down all the way, go ahead and tighten that, and then twist that down to make it even tighter. And as you can see, that 2x6 is very secure to that table. And to be honest with you, I rarely use this. After I get going and using this full time, I'm going to just take this off, because I just rarely do. So it's a cool feature for if you need to hold something securely, but I just want to tell you my honest opinion about this little feature is I just don't use them that much, but there might be some cases where you would. Something else I really like about this saw is it's big enough just to fit on a 2x10. You don't have to have a large sawhorse setup in order to anchor this. And also, these holes that are in each corner of this miter saw, you can secure them down with screws to quickly attach it to a 2x10 while you're out in the field to give it some extra security. I'm now going to show you in real time what it's like cutting actual material with this 10-inch Metabo saw. I'm going to go ahead and remove this clamp off the back, and now I'm going to first use a 2x6 in order to demonstrate it cutting. We know it'll cut through a 2x4 with no problem, but I wanted to show you, because of the table size, if it can cut a 2x6. So I'm first going to go ahead and lift up the saw head, and we're going to place it right on the saw. And I always like to use ear and eye protection when using any saw. And now I'm just going to cut off a few inches of this 2x6. And you'll notice we have a blade guard here that's going to open up when we go to cut. And there's a safety mechanism here I got to put my thumb on while I pull the trigger. So I'm holding the 2x6 securely to the fence. So as you can see, it easily cut the 2x6. Really no problem at all. Nice clean cut. There's nothing wrong with that. And now I'm just going to cut it at a 22.5 degree angle to show you what that's like. And you're going to notice something interesting here. It just barely cuts through at a 22 degree angle on a 2x6. So if you need to cut anything more than a 2x6, this saw probably isn't your best option. But for what I need it for framing, 2x4s and 2x6s, straight cuts is the most common cuts I make with it. And now I'm going to show you what it's like to cut a 4x4 post. Go ahead and place the saw up here. Here's a small piece of a 4x4 post. We have it set back at 0. Now we're going to see if it'll cut through this 4x4 post. So there you have it. It cuts through a 4x4 post with ease. No issues there. There's plenty of room to cut through it. Really like that. Now the next thing I use this saw a lot for is a plumbing. And I got a 3-inch PVC plumbing pipe here, schedule 40. And if you see me plumb, like I said, this bathroom that's in this garage, if you want to watch it, there's a link up in the top right hand corner of the screen. You can go check it out. But I'm going to show you what it's like here on this video to cut simple 3-inch pipe. As you can see, nice clean cut. Cutting a 3-inch pipe is really no effort at all on the saw. So the next thing I'm going to cut, which is going to be an interesting challenge, is a 6x6 post. I'm not sure if it's going to cut it or not, because I actually have never tried it, but let's see what happens. So already a big problem, as you can see, with a 6x6 post, it's hitting that guard. So in order to cut this, you'd have to hold the guard like that. So it's unsafe to cut like that, so I'm not going to do it. But as you can see, if you do try to cut on this, you're going to be limited and being stopped by the blade, the end of the blade here. So it's only going to go through about that deep. So there's no way it would cut through a 6x6 post. But in the past, I have seen people hold this up like this and spin the post around to make multiple cuts, but I'm just not into that. So I'm not going to unsafely use the saw. So I'm going to say you are going to be limited to the 4x4 post and cannot cut a 6x6 post. So I hope that helps give you a little rundown on just cutting straight stock. Now I'm going to show you cutting this with two 45-degree angles and see what you think. I got a scrap piece of brick mold here. I'm going to 45 it and make a nice 90-degree turn. So I'm first going to slide over to the 45 and it automatically locks there. Tighten it down. We're just going to blindly cut right in the center here to make a 45. And now I'm going to slide over to the other 45 this way. We're going to lock it into place. And now I'm going to cut that off at a 45. So we're going to put that together. And as you can see, this saw is capable of making a really nice 45-degree angle. So you can use this for some trim projects. Like I said, it does have the ability. But like I said, if you're doing really fine trim carpentry, you definitely want to make sure you get a really fine-tooth blade if you're going to try to attempt it with a saw like this. I'm now going to unbox this miter saw so you see exactly what comes in the box. All right, just going to take a utility knife to crack the plastic tape open. As you can see, everything's packaged really nice. What we got over here is the hardware for the accessories. And then we got the saw packaged up real tight. Here's an Allen wrench. I'm going to remove this pasteboard. Now I'm going to pull the saw right out of the box. And here is the actual saw once it's out of the packaging. And now I'm going to place the accessories onto the saw. I'm now going to open up the accessories that came with it and hardware. First thing you see here, we got a dust collecting bag. And this must go somewhere on the base. Then we got a material clamp. This is going to be used to clamp down whatever you're cutting. Then we got this aluminum piece, it feels like, that's going to be used as part of the backstop. We got the user manual here and instructions. We got our handle that's going to be used on the base here to adjust the angle. We got some little piece of hardware. I'm first going to put this on 0 so there's no bevel to make things easier. Now this bag is simply just going to clamp right over this hole in the back, like so. Here are the accessories that came with the saw. I'm going to show you how to set the saw up. And also, you're going to need a 11/16 socket, and you're also going to need a 10mm socket to set up these things. I got to remove this bolt that was for shipping with the 11/16 socket. There's a locking pin back here. All we got to do is put some pressure off of the saw, pull back, and then it lifts the saw head right up out of place. Now that we got that bolt removed, we just take this handle and thread and replace where that bolt was, and it just turns clockwise to tighten up. And now that that's installed, all we got to do is press our thumb down in order to slide. I'm now going to install the sub fence, and in order to do so, we're going to have to use this little metal plate, and it's going to install right here into the back, and it slides right down here into that little slot that you see, and it's going to slide right like that for now. I'm now going to place the sub fence right between the plate and the fence, and then we're going to take the flathead screw that came with, and it's going to fish right in through the sub fence, then through that plate. And now we're going to take the little nut that it came with, and we're going to thread it onto that screw. And now what I'm going to do is take the 10mm socket and tighten up that sub fence. And now, as you can see, it's secured to the fence, and we can also flip it back this way. So it adds height to the fence here. Now I'm going to install the clamp, or also known as a vise. In order to do this, we can go right through this sub fence. We're going to loosen this up. It's going to slide right down into that slot, and then the wing nut that it came with, we're just going to thread it right into this hole like so, and that's what secures it into place. And as you can see, it can still pivot, and then we can secure it right here so it doesn't slide. And then we just tighten this down to whatever material that we're going to be cutting in order to hold it into place. Very nice feature. In order to remove the saw blade, we're just going to hold that locking mechanism down, shift the blade around, make sure it's locked, and then we just turn this nut clockwise, or bolt I should say, and that's going to remove the blade. And then this comes off, and then the blade simply comes right out. So that's how you switch the blade out. Pretty simple. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on because I'm going to be using this saw today. Now to tighten it, we hold the locking mechanism down, and then we just turn it counterclockwise and make sure we're on snug, and that's all there is to it. Release the locking mechanism. Now you can see it loosens it right up. The locking mechanism is right here. To use it, we just push it down and roll the blade until you feel it lock into place, like right there. You felt it depress all the way. Now the blade is locked, but you gotta keep holding this down to continue the lock. I'm now going to show you how to install this last part. In order to do so, I'm going to push the blade down, or the saw head, and lock it into place, and then come back here. Take note of these holes right here. This holder is simply going to slide back into those holes like so, and you might have to loosen this nut up a little bit. And now we're just going to tighten that up with that 10mm socket. So that's all there is to installing the accessories onto the saw. If you had any questions about this saw, be sure to ask them in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. And if you're interested in my review of a rigid table saw, check out this video. It'll help you out.